Hello, everyone.
Hey,
We're live.
Hey, hey.
We're live
Hello.
with the wonderful Nicole. Nicole, do you mind introducing yourself, what you're all about and what you're currently working on for everyone, please?
Not at all. I'd love to. Hi. Right. So my name's Nicole Mauloni, and I run a blog and website called iPadCalligraphy.com. And I also have a shop on Design Cuts. So I make Procreate brushes, and I also teach Procreate, how to use Procreate and digital calligraphy on the iPad. So yeah, I've only recently, I've been doing it for about 4 years, but I've just recently made it a full-time thing and loving it, really enjoy it. So it's good fun.
Yeah, when I think of iPad lettering and calligraphy, you're definitely one of the few names that springs to mind straight away.
Oh, well, thank you. That's
it's
very
been great
kind.
to see everything you've been putting out as part of that community.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
it's good fun.
Just before we jump in, we always like to do this. Let us know where you're watching from. We can see people all over. We've got Lynn
Israel.
from Ohio, people from
Long Island.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey, Dustin as well from Canada. So yeah, let us know where you're tuned in from. We've got a few people still showing up, but we've got some pretty numbers today.
Halloween as well. So happy Halloween. I have a skull glass.
Nice.
Skull glass on Halloween.
We've got all the decorations that like crosses of skulls and things in the office and all sorts, haven't we? It's good.
Yeah, should have worn masks.
We go right in for it, right?
Yeah. I was going to paint my eye in the Procreate logo, but it was going too far.
San Diego.
Holland. Let us know, by the way, if you can hear and see us okay. Is it sounding okay to you, Nicole?
It sounds great to me.
Yeah, same here.
To modify the sound, someone said.
Okay, I think hopefully it's clear. If anyone's got any audio or video issues, click on Get Audio Video Help just below this stream.
Hey, Jackie.
But we should be okay.
Cool.
Looks good here.
Great, cool.
Okay, amazing. Thanks, Angela. Perfect. So, Nicole, what are you going to be showing us today?
So heads up on the format. As much as I really wanted to do like a live demo with an overhead camera and the full shebang, but Kat and I did some testing in the week and the quality just wasn't good enough. It's down to my internet connections, sadly not good enough. So we are doing the next best thing today, and I've pre-filmed something, so it's very clear. Also, it doesn't help that it's at night, so I've pre-filmed this in the day. It's a lot brighter, the picture's clear, but I'll be talking through it, talking over it, and I'm going to start as well. I've just prepared a small slide deck, just a short, quick one, just to introduce a couple of concepts before we dive in.
Amazing. Sounds great. So, yeah, do you want to kick off with the slide deck?
Awesome. So I will spin around here. Okay. So let me know. Can you see my screen okay?
We certainly can.
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, so I just wanted to give a little crash course in copperplate calligraphy before we start. That's the style that I specialize in. And I've prepared just this little quick slide deck for a few points, and they'll become relevant sort of in the demo a bit later. But when you see different styles of lettering, such as brush script and other things, the reason for the stroke thickness changes and the aesthetic differences is down to the different tools that are used to create them. So brush script, you get those contrasted weights, and that's down to the brush pen or actual paint brushes used to create it. Monoline script, you get these, the monoline pen is a consistent weight, so that doesn't have pressure. And copperplate uses a pointed pen with a flexible nib, and this dictates the width of the stroke and the amount of contrast between the thin and the thick strokes. And the reason for the width change is that when you apply pressure, the nib expands and that area fills with ink, giving you those thicker strokes. So when you use a light pressure, it contracts again and it draws a thinner stroke. So using these pressure changes on a downstroke, your heavy pressure, and a light stroke, your lighter pressure, you get these different contrasted strokes. So the tool is what makes the style in traditional calligraphy and lettering. So when we're using Procreate, you need the flexible pen attachment for the Apple Pencil. Just kidding, that's not true. There isn't one, but the normal Apple Pencil will do just fine. And we do this in digital brushes, so we can change the pressure just through those digital brushes. So another feature of copper plate as well is this 55-degree angle. This is the slant that we write on. And this is the ascender area here. So letters like H and K, the upper part of those letters sit in that area. This is the descender area. So letters like Y and P, the lower extension of those letters sit in here. And this is the X height. So this is where the body of the letter sits. And it's called the X height because the X, the lowercase x, would sit perfectly in that area. And this is the baseline. So that's where the base of the letter forms lines up. And one more key thing to note before we move on to the demo. So there's a straight edge stem to copper plate calligraphy, and that's because when you go to make the downstroke, you pause for a moment, and that expands the nib to its full setting, so it's full pressure. And you get that straight edge because of the nib, but we can't actually achieve that in digital brushes. But I'm going to show you a little trick that we can do in Procreate to just get as close as possible to the sort of traditional style. Okay, so I'll move straight over now to the video, and just let me know if there's any delay or if there's any questions. I'm happy to stop at any time, so just chime in.
Incredible.
Yeah, let's go.
Cool. All right, so Procreate. So we'll start with a brief tour of the interface. So when you first come into the app, the main gallery screen is what you see, and this list is scrollable and it holds any files that you've created or imported. So you can also import PSDs, JPEGs, or PNGs from this import link at the top right. And clicking that takes you into Dropbox or iCloud. And you can also get directly into your photo gallery from the button to the right there. And then the plus sign here allows you to create a new canvas, and Procreate has some default sizes already listed there, or otherwise you can create a custom canvas as well, just at that bottom button on the bottom. I usually choose a square size so that it's Instagram friendly. A lot of my work's on Instagram, so I choose about 3,000 pixels square, and that's large enough to repurpose it should I need to later on as well. And then I make sure that 300 DPI, so that's your resolution there, that's nice and high. And RGB color profile, that's all that Procreate offers for the moment. Apparently there's news, it's bringing in CMYK soon, so we'll see. So this is where the magic happens inside the main interface, and you've got the canvas here. You can move around really easily. It's very intuitive. But the interface is very minimal in Procreate, so we use like a lot of gestures and shortcuts. And if we look at the left menu items over here, we've got the gallery, so that takes you back to the gallery screen. Then we've got actions at the top, and you can add a file or add text. Then you've got the canvas options, so there's preferences in here. We'll be working mostly with those. There's also then the adjustments panel as well next to that, and then the select tool is next to that, and move as well, the move arrow.
Amazing.
So,
by the way,
yep.
Nicole, it's definitely definitely possible to follow. It is a little bit laggy, unfortunately. But I just wanted to say for everyone watching, it's not just you. Don't think that your computer's having errors.
Yeah, just bandwidth.
Yeah.
What a shame. So is it?
Honestly, don't worry, because
totally.
you can absolutely follow it. If anything, it's almost like a kind of stop motion Tim Burton movie.
Oh, no.
Where you can just see, because you can see frame by frame, you can absolutely pick up on all the techniques and follow it. So please don't worry. I just wanted to shout out for anyone watching. There's
nothing. Is there anything on my end I can do to improve it? Probably not really.
Don't worry. Sometimes the internet just gives it a bit more loving halfway through, and it might
kicks in.
But seriously, it's completely fine to follow and really, really useful so far. Yeah. So thank you.
No worries. All right. Well, we'll carry on and just shout if there's anything I can do to help.
Of course.
Okay, so this is your brush library here, and you might not see as many of these brushes. This is, if you've just loaded Procreate, there's less than this in their default menu. This is sort of a collection of either imported or custom-made brushes that I've made as well. So this is the smudge tool, and it says what it does, what it says. It just smudges paint, and you can use the same brushes for this tool as well. So they're all available for the smudge tool. And then next to that is the eraser, and that also has the same brushes. So you can choose any of the same brushes for your eraser tool as well. And then we've got the layers panel, and that holds the different layers in your document. So we'll be working a lot in here in the demo. And finally, we've got the color panel here from the color icon at the top. So that gives you the opportunity to save some swatches, and you can also enter your own values as well in there. So I like to start a piece by creating those guidelines that we were talking of earlier. So I usually pick like a blue, and I've created this custom brush that it just paints on those guidelines that we were looking at, the ascender, the descender, the X height, so that I can...
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's just really helpful to get all those proportions in order, and just so that it's consistent. So I paint that on first, and then I use the move tool to enlarge it. And you'll see you just turn the opacity down by pressing the little N on the thumbnail, and then you use that toggle there to reduce the opacity so that it's not going to interfere with the lettering layer. So I'm just changing to a black now, and I'm going to try and pause this every now and then. Does that help if I sort of pause it? And
yeah, absolutely.
It's fine to follow though, really, isn't it? I'm following. It's interesting. It's
all right.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I'll change to my calligraphy brush, and I'm just going to, this is the beauty of pre-made video, speeding up. I can't write that fast, but I'm just writing out now what I'm going to write here. So you are made of stardust, and this is the, to create a new layer, you just tap on that plus sign symbol there, and then we create a new layer to start the lettering. So I've got my calligraphy brush selected. This toggle changes the size here, and I'm just going to start by writing out U. So I use my guidelines as a reference to just get everything there, and then make a little fancy flourish on the end of that. And I use the process that I would sort of for normal calligraphy. So the pressure changes, keeping an eye on where my stroke is tapering towards the baseline. And you might notice I've just gone above the X height there with that U. And that's because I'm going to do that stroke tidy up that we spoke about for making the stroke stems. And I made a mistake with the brush here, but I'll show you a little tip. So if you want to use the same brush for your eraser, just first activate your brush. So as long as you're on your brush tool, just hold down the eraser and it will throw over the brush that you were just using. So that's really handy to sort of move quite quickly through a piece if you want to just use the same brush on your eraser. So now I'm just tidying up that stem, and that is ready to go. So we've got the first word in there. So it's a good idea to just identify the primary words that you want to stand out. So stardust is one of them, and you. So I'm just going to circle those. I'm not really worried about anything alignment or any of the positioning of the different words at this stage. I'm just using separate layers so I can move them all around independently. So that's one of really the best advantages for Procreate with lettering, is just the ability to be so flexible and to refine as you go, because you're working on separate layers and it's all really adjustable and movable. So I just carry on here, and I'm just writing out the rest of stardust, and I get to the R, and you'll notice I don't finish the R really. I just indicate that's the area I'm going to maybe add a flourish to. So there's certain letters that really lend themselves to flourishing. So
you make it look really easy, Nicole.
Yeah, I know.
Really easy. It looks beautiful and it's consistent and gorgeous, and it's like, this looks really easy. When you do it,
I wish I had that talent.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm just carrying on with the rest of the word, and I didn't finish the D either there because I also have identified that I'll probably flourish from that point. So. And also now just going in the T, I know that I'm going to probably flourish that as well. So I just end up taking that down a little bit further and leaving it. And I'll show you why that'll make sense in a minute. So now I'm going to just move the main words into place. And you use your arrow tool and you just move, and you can even enlarge. So at this point, it's just, really rough and outline of where you want things to go. So don't be afraid to enlarge things. We're going to refine it later. So I'm getting things into position, but I can already see I've got a problem here with the Y and the S. So I know I'm going to have to solve that at some point. So it doesn't matter though, just get it in place and just get all the words on the page is what we're working on at the moment. So the layout is going to need some adjusting, but something like that will do. And then we're going to come in and do the other words now. So what do I do next? I create a new layer. I've got to remember what I did. This is difficult. Right, so I go to a monoline brush, and that's without pressure. So we were talking before, monoline is, no pressure changes. And I'm just going to use my guidelines again to just write that out. So that's obviously sped up a bit. And I'm going to move it into place. So I reckon around here somewhere will be good. So that will do for now. And I'll turn back on the Stardust layer and I'll start looking at the layout in a bit more detail now. So I come back into my copper plate brush, and we're still just quite scrappy. We know we want something to do with the flourish here. So filling that area will look good. That'll work as a balanced design. So having that flourish kind of come in. And the great thing is flourishes can also contain words, so they can be good containers. And I've got a word that's still to go in, the of. So I think that's going to be a really good place to put that. So I'll just start to add that in now. And the crossbar of the T, I know I want a little wave for that. So I'll just fit that in on both sides, and that's nicely balanced. And then I'll look at the endings of these. So the T here, I want quite a big flourish on that. And I want it to interact with the R as well. So I'll just bring that down and then have that kind of go like that. So the missing word is the of. So I'm just going to make a new layer now and put that in the area. Go back to my monoline brush and just write that in here. So that'll go somewhere like that. So I'm going to turn off my guidelines layer just so I can see a bit better. And that's our first pass now. So we're looking, things are getting a little bit more refined. And a quick tip I can share with you as well is if you want to line up things in the middle of the canvas, Procreate doesn't have rulers like other applications like, Photoshop or something. So a good little trick is to go into your canvas setting. So you want to find the position, the middle position, go into your canvas, turn on your drawing guide and go to edit drawing guide. And when I catch up, edit drawing guide, and then crank up your grid size. And you'll see there, if you can see, hopefully, that shows you the middle now. So that point is the very middle of the canvas. So now you can select your lettering by swiping to the right. And as you select all of it, moving on to the Move tool will give you those nodes. So you can just position those in the center now.
Nice.
Yeah, really nice graphic layout.
It's really interesting to see the layout come together, isn't it, with type? Actually, the how fluid it is and how you're making decisions as you go along. It's really lovely.
And I like how you start quite rough and you just leave space for like, I'll add to that later. Or I'll do a flourish there later.
And the of will nestle in there quite nicely.
I think it's really encouraging to people that are starting out to see a process like this because it's messy. It's not, you don't know what you're going to do straight off. It's not like super planned, you just kind of take it as you go. Okay, so where were we? We were we're just going to fix this a little bit more now. So I'm going to come in and I just want to change the angle of the Y so I can solve this problem with the S. So I just start playing around with that really. And so that base layer's opacity is knocked down so I can just use it as a guide and a reference. But now we're working up towards a more improved version. So I just start to write out that U, takes a few attempts. And of course, the 2-finger tap in Procreate is probably the most used gesture. So you definitely get used to using that one. That undoes your actions, and 3-finger tap redoes it, your last action. So now I am going to work on, I just want to really fix this problem because it's annoying me. So I'm going to select the S by drawing around it with the select tool. And now I can move it independently from the rest of that layer, which is just amazing. Like, you know, that would take you so long traditionally to sort of solve that problem. But this is just part of the reason I am addicted to Procreate. It's just so easy.
Best software.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is. It's amazing. And the select tool, just draw around it independently. And now we can even change the angle. We can tilt it, move it separately. So, you know, especially if you're working in block lettering or something that's separated and not script, it's really handy because you can adjust those letters independently of each other. So you get to get really detailed on that. So I'm going to go back up to the U and just, I know it's going to work a little bit better now with those 2 words. So I'll just start working into the detail again. And again, straightening those stems for the copperplate style. And one thing I really love about my study of copperplate and learning was learning different letter forms that I wouldn't have learned, you know, at school or writing. Anyone that went to school after the 80s doesn't know this S, you know. So it was really, I really enjoy that because it gives you such diversity in your kind of toolbox of different letters. So okay, so yeah, I'm just going to carry on and finalize the Stardust word here a bit more. So the S is fine. You can move that around before you start adding any other letters to it. And now I will carry on and write the rest of the word. So just writing in there. Is the video footage a bit better now? Has it started to improve a bit?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah,
it has got better.
Okay.
Good old internet.
Yeah, Lynn's saying it's looking beautiful. It is looking beautiful, isn't it? Practice and patience, yeah, definitely.
So, I'm just
the font, by the way, Nicole.
Yeah, it's stunning, isn't it?
I've actually gotten halfway through that, but I haven't completed it. I'll have to get back to it. So this is the fun bit, really, because you've got a better idea of where things go, but it doesn't have to be exactly in the place of your previous layer. So you're just refining as you go, and you start to see how the letter forms interact with each other and how the white space is working. So it just gives you the ability to just be really fluid and work more. So I'll just
I love how you're almost training your own muscle memory.
Yeah.
Where with those more complex letter forms, you often do them 3 or 4 times. So just you go through the action, and by the 4th time, you've got it down really smoothly.
It's so smooth, isn't it? Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Huh.
It muscle memory, saying that, muscle memory is important. Like I've done a lot of drills and training, and I recommend that's how people learn, of tracing and practice. It's exactly that, muscle memory. It just
do you trace over other people's letters that you've seen that you like the look of to practice a particular style, or?
I used to when I started, but not so much anymore. I've kind of created my own drills now.
Cool.
So I've got to
start from there and branch out.
Yeah. So I'm just putting things in the middle again here and turning the opacity down on that layer because I'm going to work on the sans serif now. So I'll just draw out a guideline. We don't need the full set that we were looking at before. We just need a top and a bottom just to make sure that I'm writing those, in the right size. So to do that, I just draw a line and then merge it. You pinch to merge layers and then turn down the opacity, and now I can see what I'm doing. And I also need that for the of layer. So I just duplicate it, move it down to the of position. and then just delete the excess area here. And then I'm going to come back in. I think I've sped this bit. I hope I have, because otherwise you'll be sitting through this is boring bit.
No, it's really mesmerizing, actually.
Yeah, it's cool.
So,
where did the word choice come from, by the way? Because I feel like this is something a lot of people would like on a, I don't know, on a T-shirt or a frame.
I don't know. It just came to me, really. I struggle with thinking of, and I think it's something I have to get around because it prevents me practicing. You don't want something getting in your way of practice with like thinking too hard about what it says. You know what I mean? But I've got like a little notebook in Google that a little document that I just write down anything that, you know, I'd like to letter. So I've got a quotes list that I refer to when I get stuck for inspiration, and I just add to that when things come along. So I'll just point out here as well, like color drop fill is your friend in this instance. So see how I draw the shape and then drop the color inside, and it automatically colors for you. It's so handy. It just saves you so much time. But you've got to make sure your shape is closed, otherwise it will fill the whole canvas. So that's the other lettering. So we're getting pretty good idea of how it's looking. So at this point, I would recommend backing up your work. So I always keep duplicates, and it's just a good practice to get into. So it also means, you know, if you want to revert back at any point, you can. So Procreate auto saves your work. So if I go back to the gallery now, I'll just take a duplication of this. First of all, I need to name it. So to name a file, you just tap on the type down there and type in the name. And then swipe to the left and choose duplicate. And now you've got the two, but Procreate doesn't. You know how Photoshop would have called that one, added a one? It doesn't. So you just have to make sure you do that, because when you're backing up your work later, it's a nightmare if they're all called the same thing. So you can drag a file on top of each other, and that creates sort of like a folder. It's called a stack, and that's really handy to just combine your work. I'm Italian. I use my hands a lot, so sorry if that's interfering.
Right, well, you're rocking the yellow nail as well.
Yeah. So now I'm comfortable with deleting those layers because I've got a backup. So I can be a little bit more adventurous. So we're good to go. I'm going to add a background image now. So I create a new layer, and then I go to the wrench icon and choose add, insert a photo. And I've downloaded this from Unsplash. So Unsplash, if you don't know it, is a great resource for photo stock imagery, and you can use it copyright free. And I wish I had taken down the name of the person whose this image was so I could give them credit, but I didn't, unfortunately. But yeah, this is a nice backdrop for this image, so we're going to use that. Now I want to change my lettering to white. So if you swipe to the right, you can alpha lock the layer, which allows you to fill the layer easily. So I'm just going to change to white here and go back here, and now tap on the layer and choose fill. And I noticed that I did that on the wrong layer, and I should have edited that out to save you.
It keeps it more natural.
Let's keep it real.
Sorry about that.
Nicole, while you're fixing that, do you want a random Unsplash fact?
Oh, yeah.
So I remember when the site first launched, and they actually had hardly any images.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to find anything. And Dustin, who we work with at Retro Supply, he's got one of, if not the most downloaded image on Unsplash. It's got something like it's like 56 million downloads or something. That's what he said. He was like, if I got 1 cent per download.
You're right. It's an incredible resource, and the quality has gone up so much recently on there as well. It's just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm going to actually use something from my glitter and foil pack on design cards.
Which is at the bottom.
So,
Yeah, speaking of which, if you see a shiny green button below this live stream, you can check out Nicole's amazing store.
Yeah, go check it out.
There's half a dozen unbelievably good Procreate calligraphy brush sets on there. And they're some of our most popular, honestly.
Yeah.
The quality is fantastic, and we love all of them.
Thanks so much. So this is the glitter and foil pack. This is the silver version. So I'm going to add a mask to that. And it's by default, it reveals everything. But if you choose invert, you can then hide everything. So I'm going to do that. And now I will knock back the lettering. So now you can see if you paint on that, you reveal the texture underneath. So that's what we're going to use for the final touch. So I'm just going to knock back the opacity on each of the lettering layers. And I've also got in that glitter pack a glitter spray brush. So it's just not as sharp edges. So it looks more like, you know, traditional actual glitter. It's sort of got a speckledy edge. So when I catch up, I'm pretty sure I was going to do that.
Sandy's asking what the image is. Is it an observatory or something? Or
no, it's mountain. Yeah, it's sort of mountains in the background and the sky, night sky.
Looks nice image.
Yeah. I like the colours in it.
Yeah.
So now I'm just painting on that layer and using the lettering as a reference underneath. And this brush doesn't have pressure sensitivity. So this is the lettering part of it. So calligraphy, we can probably talk for that about 20 minutes, spend on that topic, the difference between calligraphy and lettering. But the lettering is just filling in the width to make it look as if it was written with pressure sensitive brushes. So it's sort of just faking it a bit and drawing it on. So you can even sort of add more flourishes, and as you go, that reference layer you can still add to that and change it. So I just continue to paint and reveal the layer underneath.
Amazing. Oh, sorry, Sandy asks out what was the image, Tom, that was downloaded so many times?
In Dustin's own words, it wasn't anything that special. It was like an overhead shot of a workstation with some retro objects on it. It's like old tools and stuff like that. But I think it was right in that big retro trend a few years ago. So blew up. Everyone loved it.
He's good at timing, Dustin, isn't he?
Yeah, for sure.
He's that and wearing flat cap.
He looks a good flat cap, doesn't he?
So I seem to be pausing for some reason. I don't know why. I'm just going to come in and do the second part.
Phil, I need to get your flat cap, Tom, if you've never worn one.
I have. I don't see hats, unfortunately. No, I've seen a picture of you. You see them more than I do.
So I didn't really speed this bit up, and it's I could because it pretty much is. I mean, yeah, this is the process here. It's sort of pretty much the same. I mean, the only thing I'd say that might be worth pointing out as well is just that you can turn the canvas like this really easily. So that just allows you, it's easier to pull strokes towards you, and you can just spin around the canvas and get it to a point where it's easier to write. And then I just turn down the brush size to just finish that sans serif text in here.
It's so glittery. Look at that.
It is, isn't it?
I feel like this is just a 2019 equivalent of when you're at school, and the funnest lesson was when you got to go in the art room and they had endless drawers of glitter and cardboard and materials and crepe paper and all that kind of stuff.
Do you know what? And when you have a small child in the household, there's just glitter everywhere. And your fingernails, it's on the sofa, it's in the carpet, it's on your face.
Oh, cute. So one more thing I'm going to do is to just add a little bit of a darker layer behind, between the lettering and the background. And so to color pick, I'll just grab that blue there. You just tap that middle button and you can sample from the image. So I'll just choose the blue, and on a new layer, I'm going to use I've got this brush, gradient brush that I've made, and that just stamps a gradient. And now by opening the panel, you can change the blending mode to something that just makes it stand out. So I'll change it again. Let's have a little play and see what works best. And you can also knock back the opacity again as well. So just play around with that. I think I opted for multiply in the end. Yep. And then just turn back the opacity slightly. And there you have it. You are made of stardust, people.
Awesome.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing, Nicole.
Yeah,
That was
really beautiful.
It's such good insight into the process as well, because I think what can be, first of all, let's give it up for Nicole. Yeah. That was amazing. Let's show some love in the comments, everyone. Let us know if that was helpful for you. What I love about these processes is it makes them less intimidating for beginners such as myself. And I know Matt is not a letterer either.
Not at all. Not at all. I wouldn't have a clue. 20 years of design, but no idea how to do that, definitely.
I wouldn't know where to start often. And I think often people think you need to put the photo there and just draw over it and do perfect lettering. And you've shown it's really like a 3-step process. So you do your outlines, then you refine the lettering over the top, and then you keep refining, adding flourishes.
And it makes it less scary, right?
It does. You can start really organic. And it's
stages, absolutely.
A portrait and start with basic shapes, right?
And build up from there.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's part of the fun about it. It's not. I think people can get really intimidated by copperplate as well. Like, there's a lot of modern script out there, and there's a lot of other styles. But this particular script, for some reason, people get really like it's part of some elite club, and it's not. It's open to everyone, and it's a really beautiful script, and it's good fun. So yeah, I hope other people start to use copperplate a bit more, because I think it's really stunning, like really beautiful script.
Yeah, completely agree. And look at all the lovely feedback in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys. Lynn, love this class. So if you enjoyed that, Nicole's very kindly offered to stick around and answer some of your questions to do with iPad calligraphy and lettering. So do click on the Ask a Question option just below this live stream, and we're going to go through your questions in the next 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, perfect. That'd be great. I'd love to.
Now.
Amazing. So Mike asks, what's your favorite font management tool? Do you even use fonts, Nicole, or do you just draw them?
Oh, no, absolutely.
Think about it from there.
Yes. You know what? I just use Font Book. I really just create folders in there and use that. And I should probably, I know what's a good one? There's a really crazy kind of super organized one.
Explorer.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I've got so many fonts.
I've got so
many. I've never taken the time to properly organize them.
I just keep collecting them, and when you work for design cuts, just more and more come across your plate.
Design cuts is terrible for that. or really good for that.
Also good as well,
feeds the addiction. Yeah, for sure.
Steve asks, how do you create the guideline brush you use near the beginning of the presentation, please?
You know what? That was so difficult. Just because it's a repetitive pattern. So the guide actually had to be one square that then repeated, and getting the
guideline brush coming out.
It took me about a week. It seriously took about a week. That is available in my Essentials pack, which is on Design Cuts. And the Essentials pack has the copperplate brush, the guidelines brush, the brush script brush that we were looking at earlier, and the monoline. And it also has some other guidelines without the angle. So it also has like just straight lines with the baseline, the X height, and it has a grid brush as well. So if you want to save yourself the effort Otherwise,
Up
yeah,
in there,
just,
the button, click the button. Yeah. So,
sorry, I didn't mean to shamelessly plug.
I think that's fair enough. They're awesome. So why not? Yeah,
if
it helps
you
people
made them,
out.
they're super useful.
Angela asks, Nicole, do you create your own copper plate pointed brushes in Procreate?
I do, yes. Yes, I have created my own brush, which I've changed recently and updated to incorporate the new smoothing setting in Procreate. It's awesome. It used to be a bit taboo that people use, do you know, Streamline? So Streamline kind of corrects their strokes a little bit in Procreate. And I remember when it first came out, there was like this controversy that like traditional lettering artists were really, really annoyed that digital calligraphy had this correction. And I'm like, but you're writing on glass with plastic. You know?
Yeah, it's not quite the same.
It's not the same thing. So, yeah, I think that is. But what was I saying? I updated my calligraphy copper plate brush to incorporate smoothing, which is a new setting. So they've made that even better and more subtle. And that allows the tapering of the brush to be a lot smoother. So they're just refining and refining all the time. It's amazing.
Sure. Great. I mean, I've seen firsthand our friend Ian Barnard do some of his lettering on an iPad, and he's an absolute master as well. But he uses smoothing as much as anyone. Sure. And I've seen his work when he turns the smoothing off. It's so jittery because you're right, drawing on glass is impossible.
And it's a computer application, you know, it's not, you know, it is responsive, it's very responsive, but those settings that they bring in are to make it more responsive, you know, so smoothing does help with that. It helps the pen trajectory kind of respond more as to what you're intending, you know, so yeah.
And thank you to Steve as well in the comments. He just grabbed that pack with the guidelines from Nicole. He says, a pleasure to support you, Nicole.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
So do keep the questions coming in, but Matt, have you got any questions? Because I know I've got a couple when it comes to lettering.
Well, as ever, I'd like to know, you know, how did you get into it? You know, what got you started? What got you passionate about it? That always really interests me, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure thing. Well, I've got a background in web design, actually. I've been working web and graphic design. Yeah, for like 20 years. That makes me feel really old, but 20 years.
Yeah, I was there as well. Frame sets, that kind of thing.
And I was working on a project and I needed a really handmade look and feel to it. And I stumbled across a hand lettering tutorial on YouTube. I wish I could remember the name of the person and write to him and say, you changed my life, because really he did. Like, I just was hooked, and it was weird. It was just like something overcame me. I was just intoxicated by it. And I would just, you know, like obsessively kind of watch videos and tutorials, and I couldn't produce that work, but I knew what I liked, and my taste improved with the more I exposed myself to it. And my taste was more refined, and the more I looked into it and learned. And and so then I started with pointed pen. So originally, that stuff we were looking at before with the flexible nib and ink. And I really loved that. But then when I discovered the iPad, and that was no turning back really. And it just increased the amount I was practicing as well, because it's so portable and easy to set up, and, you know, all those advantages of using the iPad. So, I just really enjoy that. And
so much creative variation that you can work into your pieces too. You know, you can create literally anything.
Infinite possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, but I do like to go back to basics as well. I think Procreate can sometimes be a bit overwhelming with like knowing all the different tricks and everything like that. And I think when you're starting out learning calligraphy, keeping it really simple and just getting around like the interface and getting used to it, it can be intimidating to learn those two things at the same time. Like if you're new to Procreate and you're new to calligraphy, that can be quite overwhelming. But yeah, if you just take it one step at a time, and it's okay to make mistakes as well. You know, it's like, you're not going to break anything. I think that's what I had to tell myself when I was starting out. It's like, it's fine. and you don't have to post everything you do. You don't have to like post everything you do to Instagram, and the world doesn't have to see it. It can just be for you while you're starting out, you know.
Of course,
so.
yeah. Enjoy the journey.
Nicole, have you got a screen protector at all?
I do, yes.
Steve as well is recommending
and a few people have asked this recently, haven't they, about screen protectors? Some people don't use them, some people do, and
I go for Paperlike, but also there's another one I used to use, Tech Armor, which is a bit cheaper, and the matte version of that. I mean, you get a bit of a dull down in the iPad tone, like the color and the brightness, but the benefit of kind of having that extra friction definitely is. And to be honest, I don't want the iPad to be screaming at me from glowing, like, especially sometimes I like working at night. I knock the brightness back intentionally so it doesn't sort of mess around with my sleep patterns, because I think I'm staring at a screen all day. I don't want to be,
that feeling.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Mike asks, do you use the vector points much in Procreate?
See, vector points, I wonder, is Mike able to clarify? Just because Procreate doesn't exactly use vectors. There's quick shapes, so there's sort of little nodes. When you use a quick shape, you get like a little bounding box. But
maybe it was a trick question. He's like, I want to see if you really do know your Procreate.
Yeah, we'll see.
Gotcha, Mike.
Yeah, nice try, Mike.
Maybe, I don't know if he maybe was asking what I would use to make vectors on the iPad.
It allows you to edit by points, he says.
By points, okay.
We're only teasing you, by the way, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. I could be, I could be completely wrong here. I don't know. I'm trying to think what points. So my process of vectoring on the iPad is to export from Procreate and use Adobe Capture to do an auto trace, because in Illustrator you can do auto trace really easily. There wasn't that existing thing on the iPad, so I end up doing auto trace and then bringing into Affinity Designer and using Affinity for any vector work. So that's my process there. Yeah.
Awesome. Adobe process.
Oh, thanks.
Yes. Very true.
Yes. Thanks, Roberta.
Yeah, Roberta, beautiful.
Some lovely comments. Thanks, guys.
They're a nice bunch, aren't they?
Yeah. They're a nice bunch. Design cutters. They're really sweet guys. Yeah.
They are. Nicole, honestly, thank you so much for jumping on with us today. That was such a beautiful demonstration. And every time we have one of these sessions, it makes me want to pick up an iPad and get lost in Procreate.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Lost in documentation a lot of the time nowadays.
Well, I'm really pleased, because that is the effect I want to have. I think everyone should get in there. Calligraphy is also really good self-care. It's really good downtime. So even though I've found, like, from my audience, I thought I was talking to other designers, but I'm not. It's just people who enjoy it and just like it as a hobby. So, I found out by talking to the people in my mailing list and whatever, that a lot of them were people that just really enjoyed it as like a relaxing downtime process. So,
it's cathartic, it's therapeutic. It's great. So you never know. We're gonna put a halt on all Design Cuts events and stop working so hard, and we're gonna pick up some iPads and have some fun.
That's it. Yeah, we're like, there's no new product on this site in 2 years now, guys. What's going on? Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Start handwriting notes to each other.
So Steve asked, is that our collective name, Design Cutters?
I know, we need a logo for it.
I'm really impressed. I'm impressed that you knew that, Nicole, because we haven't used it as much lately. We used to use it all the time. So that is the official community member's name.
It says competition.
We got our Design Cutters here. And as always, we appreciate all you Design Cutters showing up for these live sessions. We're here every single Thursday.
I hope everyone enjoys them as much as I do, because I love it.
It's super fun. So, Nicole, thank you again for coming on. Thank you everyone for joining us live.
Thanks, guys.
Where else can people find you? Obviously, we've linked up your store below this live stream, but it is iPadcalligraphy.com, I believe.
That's right. And if anyone's interested to a deep dive, I'm doing a few live sessions. I've just finished some training. So if you go to iPadcalligraphy.com/masterclass, you can register for the event, and there's a free PDF as well. So it's 7 game-changing tips for Procreate. And you get that when you sign up, and it's just like the top tips I recommend for lettering on the iPad.
Amazing.
Awesome. Everyone go check that out, and feel free if you want to link that up in the comments, Nicole. Also, Ronnie is asking about a replay. Don't worry, all of this has been recorded. So
all in the Learning Hub on the website. Yeah,
that'll be up soon. Everyone have a fantastic day, and Nicole, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
You so
okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.